All right, good morning, everyone, to include Gretchen and Kim, who are not here today. That's our live stream.
You may have to talk louder.
Okay. All right, so Steph and I discussed what is the best way to develop our coaching staff without just outsourcing to CrossFit and sending you guys to level 2 and all these other specialty courses. And it was to speak from experience. All right, so you guys know I've been doing this for a long time, and I feel like I have a pretty good method to my madness when it comes to organization in the class. Okay, and I think that starts with the whiteboard. So I titled today's course, Everything You Need to Know About the Whiteboard. All right, I'm gonna try not to say things that are repetitive or things that you may already know, but I wanna make sure I hit on everything that I think about when I approach the whiteboard. So number one, if you guys can see, this is tomorrow's workout up on the board. So we've got 10 sets of 3 bench press and then a 5 round per time workout. So for me, if I know I'm gonna coach Monday morning, I'm gonna go into the SugarWatt app and I'm going to read through everything. All right, starting from the warm up. If I am on the athlete's whiteboard, it's still okay, there's plenty of information. I'm gonna read everything through. And it always tells you the first line is estimated time, 1 hour, everything included. We know that if we don't plan properly, that hour can turn into 40 minutes or it can turn into an hour and 15. So I'll talk about that in a second, but really utilize the SugarWatt app. There are endless amount of notes for every single lift. And when I say read everything, I mean it. Actually spend 10 minutes before you go to bed or after dinner, just read through that and really understand what it is that you're going to be expected to teach to a group of people who may or may not know what you're talking about. And then the biggest part is to check out the Metcon and the strength, and then start to build a timeline. Okay, so has anybody ever heard about the timeline? No. So in the level 2 course, you guys build a timeline and you essentially backwards plan from the start to the finish, okay? I always put in 5 minutes of buffer time when I plan this, right? And it could be if I have extra time for warm up, or if I have a problem child like Ken who just doesn't want to get his stuff, he's just taking his time. Then you're gonna start from the last thing that happened. So I have a 12-minute time cap on this workout. Realistically, that's probably like 14, 15 minutes to do that workout. So I'm gonna even bump this back to the 40-minute mark. So from 40 to 55, that's kind of like my workout time, right? We also have to clean up benches. We're not using benches in this workout. We're not using barbells in this workout. We're not using any weights. So everything that gets used in this first section, that has to be cleaned up. How long is that gonna take? If it's heavy back squat day, there's a lot of weights out. There's 6 squat racks. You gotta think it's probably gonna take at least 5 minutes to clean everything up. For the bench, it might not take that long, but it's still worth adding it in there. So you can just call this cleanup time. Then we have our 10-minute bench press. Is that gonna take 10 minutes? Probably not. If there's a class of 20 people at 5 o'clock in the morning, we have 5 benches or 6 benches up. That means we're putting 2 to 3 people or more on a bench, and we're expected to do this every minute. Even though 3 reps only takes 10 seconds, cycling through 4 athletes in a minute probably won't be realistic. So knowing that and then forecasting that, that's probably gonna be another 10 minutes, right? Or 15 minutes. So that puts us all the way down to 20 minutes to talk about the warm-up, talk about the workout, explain everything, and then actually do a warm-up, right? So if you think of it like that, could this 20 be 25 or 28? Probably, but if you want to have a smoother transition in between time and be able to take your time, you kind of want to forecast a few more minutes. So in 20 minutes, we're going to be expected to do a 2-minute machine. So now we're down to 18. We have, at best, a 90-second round. So now we're at 4.5 minutes. 6.5 minutes is gone And that didn't even include our workout prep that we have down here in between the cleanup and the workout. So that's probably another 4 minutes. So that gives you about 8 minutes to kind of move left or right. And that's with any stragglers, that's with any people that are asking questions, right? This is not a very complicated workout, but if we were to do like 5 rounds, 1 minute AMRAP, max double unders, they're gonna be like, well, how many double unders are we supposed to do? Or why are we doing double unders at the end? What's the rest time? Those 30-second questions or conversations just cause a lot of sidetrack or sidebar comments. And I digress. So let's say we have at best 11 minutes and maybe at worst like 12 minutes of our warm-up. That doesn't include anything that you want to throw in there. Like if Rachel decides that she has a class with 5 people who can't do double unders, I mean, she'd be wrong if she didn't spend extra time teaching them how to jump and time themselves jumping in the air. So now you're accounting for a little bit more. Does that make sense? So our 20-minute buffer time from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock just went down to about 8 minutes, because this is going to be our warm-up. That's going to be our strength, right? So in that 8-minute window, that's kind of what I want to talk about today. This is part of today, for sure, because this helps you forecast and plan. But that 8 minutes is where you're going to spend a lot of your time either being successful, running a really, what would seem as a well-oiled machine class, or you're going to be behind the curve and you're going to miss a lot of stuff. So that's what I'll kind of change gears. So once you figure that out, you kind of prepared or planned for what it is you're going to coach, you set up your timeline maybe the day in advance, or you've at least thought of it. You don't have to write it down like I did. I think you should, but you don't have to if you don't think so. Then you're going to start to look at your class participants, right? That's tough because some people only sign up 5 minutes before class. You try to get them a few hours ahead. We were doing 12 hours at one point. That made it a lot easier to know that if Merrick, Charlotte, and Sheva were coming into a class that had ring muscle-ups in it, you're not just going to be like, well, they just can't do ring muscle-ups. It gave you more time to kind of think of the particular person or the particular case that needs a certain scale to get the same adaptation as Ken would on the rings, right? So then we look at our class participants. When you look at a class of, at the 5 a.m. with Rachel, it's kind of hit or miss. People will wake up at 4:45, they'll throw their name on a list, and it is what it is. But rarely do we have a lot of newbies at 5 a.m. We have recently though, right? We've had Ed and we've had Amy who aren't unathletic, but they're very new back into fitness. And knowing that they're coming, it's probably going to put a little bit more stress on your time requirements and where you're going to, I'll talk about that in a second with your attention distribution. But knowing who's coming to your class is a big deal. So on top of that, I would almost always plan to put what you would consider the most problematic member to always be in your class. Always plan for it. So Brian, pain in the ass, he's going to ask 5 questions. He's going to disrupt your timeline. Is that going to affect you if you let it? Probably. If you don't let it, then not really. Or you have somebody like, back in the day we had Thomas Crowley, who was, you guys met him the other day. He was a tough cookie to crack, I'll say. He would show up maybe late or super early and not really know where to go, and just kind of planning, like I like to say, think of who would give you the most problems in this format of a workout, and then plan to adjust to that person. All right? Backing up. So then, after you figure that out, who's coming to class, attention distribution. It's not that Ken's been doing this for 10 years, so he doesn't need coaching. It's that I can give Ken a short actionable cue and he can start to work and not really need too much hovering, as opposed to somebody like Andy who has only been doing CrossFit for a month and doesn't really know most of the movements. So what does that look like? For me, it's I want to get everybody situated and moving who has the ability to do so first, and then spend the rest of the time, whatever's left, with the other people. So if this is my class, and I know that Liz, let's say you have a knee injury or something, and you're gonna ask me for, what am I supposed to do with my knee? I know that's coming. You told me you hurt your knee, you're getting hurt. Ken's ready, he's getting ready for the open. Rachel's locked in, she's been training twice a day. You guys have been members for 2 years and you come in 4 times a week. You kind of got a good feel for it. And then Steph's, she didn't sleep last night, so she's kind of like out in the clouds, doesn't know what's going on. I'm gonna take care of Ken, I'm gonna take care of Rachel, I'm gonna be like, hey, you guys gonna need anything from me? Not really. And then it's really easy for me to say, Liz, give me 1 second. I'm gonna chat with Steph for a second, I'll come back and talk about your knee. So being able to kind of triage who needs you the most as the expert, because if you end up spending too much time with one person, then you're going to probably leave somebody needing more than they got, right? So that's something to think about as you go through and check out your class participation, right? Does that make sense? Does anybody have anything they want to add to that?
I think your warm-up is a really good idea to watch and to see who's going to need that extra attention. Because like you might pass off like a Kate, and if we're doing pull-ups or we're toes to bar and you see that she has to do a swing in between, you're like, she's a skilled athlete, she's a phenomenal athlete, and you look and you're like, I got to give her a cue. Whereas you might have just passed over her because she's such a great athlete. You might have been like, she doesn't need anything. But it's like just watching those finer things of like, the RX athletes still need cues. The new athletes like Andy still need, education and learning of the why and how to perform the lift. So that's a great time to just kind of watch things and be like, you got to get a little bit deeper.
Exactly. That kind of stuff. The next part was the structure of the warm-up, right? That really matters. It matters how you organize your class to go through these movements. So generally, the Mayhem warm-ups have been pretty cookie cutter for the most part. I know I add a few things if I'm coaching in the early morning, or if I pop in at night, or whatever it is, whenever I'm coaching. And I'll usually try to add something. This workout's not really great for that because it's kind of straightforward. But if we were to say, instead of double unders, it was 12 handstand push-ups. Like I know that everybody, if I show you a kettlebell swing, for the most part, you'll get it. Goblet squats are pretty simple. It's a front squat essentially. But the handstand push-up is where we start to deviate with our skill level, right? But if all of us are doing handstand push-ups today or a variation of them, I think it's best to start at your lowest level, and then I treat it like what I call a bus stop. So if I'm gonna do handstand push-ups, I'm gonna have everybody grab a box or a partner with a box, and maybe we'll do pike push-ups. Or we even start on the ground and just do a pike push-up from the ground. Then we'll go to the box. Then we'll talk about getting onto the wall, being in good positions, right? And that's where I can kind of look at my timeline and know I have 10 minutes to talk about this. So I can start to kind of take my time, I can start to answer individual questions, and then I can progress up to the highest level. And you always want to show athletes what it is you're trying to get them to do. Just because it says strict handstand push-ups doesn't mean I look at that and say, well, Liz, you're never doing those, so don't worry about those. You don't need to. That's the wrong answer. It's if we want her to do strict handstand push-ups, then she needs to understand getting upside down is important. Negatives are important. Strict press is important. Position is important. Learning everything else at the same time is just as important. But then also explaining to her that her trajectory to get to that point might look a little different than it is for Aaron, right? It might look a little different men and women wise. It might look a little different age wise. It might look at, ability and skill and background wise. But that's something you have to consider when you're pitching to someone like, hey, we have ring muscle ups in the workout. This is what it looks like. And people are like, wow, whoa, I can't ever, oh my God, you can't do those. Like, can't do them yet, but if you start training and you worry about these basics like we talked about at the bar muscle up seminar, it's really, it's just a matter of time, you know? Hey, come on, you're good. You're good. So that kind of puts into how we set up the flow of our classes, right? It's always going to start with some kind of explanation at the whiteboard. I have to tell you why you're here and what you're doing, right? We always have a few announcements on the board. That should take 30 seconds. Hey guys, there's some announcements on the board. Check them out if you want. Big thing this week is the open starts on Thursday. Like for me, if that's what I'm doing, or if Steph yelled at me for not pitching the shirts, that's fine. But if those are my two big items, I'm like, yo, check out the announcements right up on the board. I know you guys can read. Also, the sign-up sheet for the shirts are over here too. Make sure you sign up. That takes 10 seconds. You don't have to spend a lot of time on it. Whereas if you're just like, all right, 2:16, we got the CrossFit Open. 3:11 is the end of open party. 2:16 to 3:2 is the food drive. 4:22 is the blood drive. There's a competition on 5/6, the Riverfront Rivalry, and then on 5/28, a couple people are getting together to do Murph at Black Ops, and then shirts. If you want to order some shirts, that's ridiculous. Don't read it, right? They can read, but just make sure you avert their attention up there, guys. Check out that announcement board. All right, there's a lot of events coming up. Make sure you check them out. Read, but don't treat them like they don't know how to read. They can read. And if they can't read, just say that. Hey, you don't know how to read. Talk to me after class. That's a separate issue. We teach fitness, but fitness could be reading too. I don't know.
Reading is fundamental.
Right. So then the flow of the class. Right, that took like 30 seconds. There's a couple other things always up on the board, but that's not really for you to discuss, right? That should be something that is talked about after class or in transition between classes or before class, right? So then we start to talk about what it is we're going to do today. Most of the time in the format that we've had has been strength and a Metcon, or just one workout. Doesn't matter what it is, you're going to spend 2 minutes or less. 2 minutes or less. Because in that 8-minute window, that's your buffer time. Or when you get Merrick who comes up to you and says, hey, I can't do double unders today, what can I do instead? And you're like, let me prepare, I don't know. And you have to go on the spot and figure it out. So 2 minutes or less, we're going to talk about the workout. Ready? I'm going to time it. I'll time it. All right, everybody fuck this up. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Good morning. How are you guys doing? Everybody's hanging in there, doing pretty good? Check it out. We got the CrossFit Open starting on Thursday. All right. Make sure if you haven't signed up, sign up today. There's sign-up sheets for the t-shirts as well. Today's workout is going to be bench press and then a quick little 5-round workout. All right. So you check it out. We're doing 10 sets of 3, bench press at 67.5% every minute on the minute for 10 minutes. All right. The goal with these bench presses is to be smooth on the way down and fast on the way up. We're going to work in teams of 3 to 4, and we'll have about 5 or 6 benches set up. Make sure after you warm up, you guys grab your bench if it's not already out there, and set it up. For the workout today, it's going to be 5 rounds, 4 time, 12 kettlebell swings, 12 goblet squats, and 60 double unders. You're going to use the same kettlebell, and we're going to try to do those unbroken. So just keep that in mind as you guys go through. Our target time for that is between 8 and 10 minutes, and we're going to cap it at 12. If you don't have double unders, don't worry about it. We're going to make sure that we modify and scale appropriately for everybody that's sitting in class. Cool? You guys want to get moving? Any questions? Bingo. Go ahead.
They'll be American or Russian?
Just keep the timer going. The kettlebell is going to be all the way up overhead.
Oh.
Yeah. As high as you feel comfortable with.
Does the bottom of the kettlebell have to be up to the ceiling, or can it be like that?
It's always just going to face away from you. Anything else? With Ken's stupid questions, that's 90 seconds.
That's the question to get.
It is. It is. Like, hey,
this is
are
how
we
I wanted to be. People
Are we
just
doing
do their own
double
thing.
unders with a jump rope today? Yep. Yes. So, but do you see like the point, right? Like the purpose is to get everybody moving in class. You should not have to talk. It's an elevator speech. That's what it should be. All right? And I'm not saying that the way I do it is the right way to do it, but I'm saying the way that I do it gets you moving the fastest. And people came here for an hour of fitness, not 48 minutes of fitness. Right? Questions on that at all?
Not questions, but I will say how I do my whiteboard is I will demo movements, and that's just the way that I was taught.
Yeah.
Was that way, and I don't know, right or wrong. So my
that's- I don't
whiteboard
think
is a
it's
little
right
bit
or wrong.
longer.
I don't think it's right or wrong. I think
Okay.
if there's something that, like we did on, for that workout, that was great because we had so much extra time.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
So if we're like, guys, this is an open workout, we want to really make sure we're hammering movement quality, all right, when we do our dumbbell front squats, because there was a lot of variance to it. There's not a lot of variance to this workout.
True.
Right?
Right.
So in that sense, yes, we're doing a compound lift. We're all heavy single, so we need to definitely talk about it. We're going to do body weight movement. We're doing dumbbell movement. There's tons of different ways to do those. That's good to show for sure.
Okay.
Right? But for something like this, where even Ben's question, like, you guys can do it at eye level, you can go up as high as you feel comfortable with. That's the only variance of the workout, really.
Sure.
Right? But if we were to change it, like you said, to handstand push-ups, then that's a good time to use that, our little 8-minute buffer window to use some of that time to show a handstand push-up or modifications for it. But I like to wait on that because I feel like if you put a lot of information out right away, then it's just going to be lost in the right. You have to say it again anyway.
I agree. Yeah.
So that's why I plan for a little extra time towards the back end because I'm like, let's get these guys moving. Let's see how they move in the warm up. Look at who is going to give me a problem, and then during the bench press, I'm like, hey, what do you guys think about maybe wall walks for handstand push-ups today? They're like, I don't know how to do wall walk. Cool. I'll go back and rethink my attack strategy. But during that time after the strength portion is a good time for you to start saying like, all right, break down everything. Make sure you guys have a kettlebell and a jump rope. We're gonna come back in and we're gonna start to talk about our scaling options for today. And I think that's a good time to do it. If you do it in the beginning, it's not wrong. I just feel like you're cutting into some of your time later.
That's a good point, and then I'm repeating myself.
And then you're gonna repeat yourself, yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, it's not wrong. Especially if you have somebody who needs to hear it a couple times. You're like Andy and maybe 2 drop-ins that have never done CrossFit in the world, right, in their time. And you're doing 18.2. All right, we have a high-intensity workout with 3 different pieces, and then you're gonna max out a clean. We'll talk about that in a second, but I think it's okay if your audience is requiring it, right? But if it's you guys who have seen all these moves before, I can look at you guys straight through, just one time through, and I'll know if there'll be like one of those little dog head, like, double unders. Yeah, we're gonna do double unders today. You remember double unders or the jump rope 2 times under? Oh, yeah, got it, right? So I think that is one way to get your class moving. And I'm always a fan of people that, if you come in here and you're waiting, it gets to the point where you're like, when are we gonna start? Right? Because you came in here and now your attention span is not longer than that. Anything else I say, unless you're demoing movement, I'm watching you, it's fluff. All right? Okay. So then when we look at something like this, I wrote down the best hour of the day because I wanted to make this probably the end of where I leave it. But everybody that comes in should get a similar feeling of the workout, right? So we had Joe Sparko do it, we had all of us do it together, and right next to us, Andy was doing it, Charlotte, Janice. At the end of it, they're like, man, that was hard. That's the feeling. Not that every workout has to be a gut-wrenching, painful workout, but if the workout calls for high intensity, everybody should feel some kind of dose of that intensity, okay? So I want to kind of move our conversation from this area over to the girls' poster, all right? So let's get up and go there. Bring the camera, Steph. and smile. We're gonna go to this girl's post.
Oh man.
All right, and we're back. Okay, so Tom and I got this poster. God, I don't know how long ago. That long. These were the original girl workouts, all right, from Greg Glassman. They just came out with like a whole bunch more, like a second revamping of girl workouts. But I always use this as like the benchmark of our members' fitness in terms of loading, intensity, time, and things like that. So if you start and looking across where it's like just your body, just the body weight workouts. For a round of Chelsea, 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, and 15 air squats, it's the same as Cindy, right? Chelsea is, I'm gonna do that every minute for 30 minutes, okay? I would consider that to be pretty high level fitness, okay? If you look at somebody in your class and they're like, I can't even do 5 pull-ups, then why would we have them try to repeat that effort on the minute for 30 minutes? Something that would benefit them would be to do it in an AMRAP format, like Cindy, and say, hey, I'm gonna do 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 15 squats, but I'm going to take my own time. I say that because that's gonna determine the way that you modify or scale their movements. So if we have an AMRAP format for 20 minutes, doing 5, 10, 15, and somebody's like, oh, I wanna work on pull-ups, that's a great one to work on pull-ups. The stimulus for that is do as many as you can do. The word AMRAP literally means that, right? We have a goal for sure, but that doesn't mean that if you have a couple pull-ups, you shouldn't break them up, or you know, it's okay in that format. And I go back to Chelsea because that's supposed to be a repeated effort for 30 minutes. So if you can only do 1 pull-up at a time, but you can do like 6 push-ups and 15 air squats or nothing, then why not modify your numbers individually to fit the time that we want to hit, right? So Chelsea and Cindy are the same exact workout, but the format and the intensity are different. So when I look at something on the whiteboard that's an EMOM format, for 30 minutes, that's a long EMOM that you can repeat almost every minute in a 30 to 40 second window. That's when you can start to modify the total reps to get them in the right time. The movements, they have to change. Most people change movements anyway, but if you're looking at something like an AMRAP, the time's gonna stop, you're gonna eventually be done. But if you don't do it properly for an EMOM format, then you're gonna start to fall apart. They're gonna start to see, that's when you start to not have the best hour of your day. You start to have a pretty bad time. And then we move on to something like, Amanda. So Amanda is probably like the most technical old school girl workout that was ever made. It's 975 muscle ups on the rings and snatches. But the stimulus for Amanda, for most people, isn't to do it in 3 minutes, right? That's elite level fitness. It's to probably do it in about 6 to 8 minutes. That gives you like 2 minutes per round, or 4, 3, 2, depending on like the 9-minute time cap, right? When we look at modifying people, I brought you to this board so you can go and find a different, maybe similar stimulus to Amanda somewhere in terms of movement and weightlifting wise, and then kind of use the numbers to put together your own workout for them. So if muscle ups are tough, this Cindy format per muscle up is a really cool scale, right? You're gonna do 9 rounds of Cindy, that's a lot, but maybe you do 6 rounds of Cindy, 4 rounds of Cindy, 2 rounds of Cindy, and that's your muscle up variation. We always go to burpee pull-ups. I know that's an easy kind of fix, but if our real goal is to develop our athletes, then we probably should be looking at breaking down the movement that we're failing them at, and then giving them something to build that strength, if you will, in the movement. Because I go back to people like Charlotte or Janice, who maybe Charlotte got her first pull-up, I think, like last year or something like that, which is awesome. That's the train you need to keep putting her on. And when she sees a movement like muscle up, she probably automatically cuts it off. She's like, I'm not doing that. I can't do that. So that's where we need to kind of modify what it is she's doing to get a similar stimulus, but also continue her training trajectory to get her closer to that. If it takes her 20 more years, it takes her 20 more years, right? But you shouldn't just say, well, you're Charlotte, you're never gonna get it. And that's the end of that tangent. But the last thing I'll say about this poster are the RX weights, all right? I look at the RX weights, and that's how I determine RX athletes. Not because you decide you're an RX athlete, is because you can maintain the stimulus of something like this for a workout similar to an original CrossFit workout. They made them like this for a reason. 135 pounds is not a heavy snatch for an Olympic weightlifter. It is a heavy snatch for somebody who doesn't do snatches all the time, or who isn't significantly strong in their shoulders, in their pull off the ground. So maybe you start looking at that and you say, hey, well, today's workout is, what are we doing? Kettlebell swings, goblet squats, and double unders. Let's change it to, we're gonna do 6 power snatches at 135, 12 front squats at 130, or 6 front squats at 135, 60 double unders. So now we have 30 snatches and 30 front squats, and 95 for women. If you look at this, you're like, hey, have you ever done Isabel at 135 or 95 pounds? You're like, nah, I haven't. Then, hey, we're doing the same amount of reps, plus we're doing double unders. Maybe you bump it down to 115 or 80 pounds or 75 pounds, and you try to do those 6 in quick singles or something like that. Right? But I use this board a lot because, well, board's in my head, but I use those numbers a lot because there's a purpose for them. You're using 135 because it's kind of on the cusp of, I could probably do like 10 unbroken if I had to, but then I'm gonna start to fall apart. If I did 30 singles at 135, I'm kind of coasting at a proper pace to get the right stimulus. It's a weight that I could touch and go, but maybe I'm not going. But if I change Isabel to 65 pounds for men, it's not the same workout, right? I can just do 30 without stopping and then I'm done in 90 seconds. So just use the board, use the RX numbers, and if you aren't sure what RX numbers are, it's okay to look up other workouts and then figure out different time domains and try to get the proper stimulus from the weight, right? Because I said the other week, there's only 2 ways to increase intensity. It's to add weight or to go faster, right? So if you look at Amanda, you have somebody like Ken who can do 9 muscle-ups. It might just take him 2 sets or 3 sets. For him to get better at a workout like Amanda, he needs to be able to do more muscle-ups. So maybe that's something for him to think about during his training. You know, when you get up on the rings, Ken, like every time you get up there, just do a max set of muscle-ups. It might not be 975, it might end up being like 12, 8, 3. Okay, I got it. But just get up there, maybe do 2 sets of max muscle-ups, and that way you can help build the capacity that you're looking to build in that movement. And then, like the snatch, you know, whatever, we'll focus on the muscle up today. Big tangent, just to say, use the numbers, use the movements, use the stimulus, use the time caps, use the time domains that are programmed here because they really make a difference. All right? All right, let's go back there and then we'll wrap up. Sweat. All right, Liz, you ready?
I'm so ready.
All right, go. I want you to just give me the intro on the whiteboard. Just explain it to us like we're just a class. Here, swim spots for me.
Oh my god.
Start the timer. Go ahead.
Oh man, put her on the spot. You got this, Liz. Easy.
Come on, you're doing fine.
Okay guys, let's go birds! Alright, so I want you guys to take a look at the events up here. The main thing that you want to focus on is the CrossFit Open is on Friday. Who's excited? And then we're going to have a party. There's a couple other dates, so just make sure that you're taking a peek up there. So today's workout, our strength is a bench press. It's going to be a 10 by 3 So we're gonna go over that after our Metcon, and then the Metcon is hot dogs and fries. And we're gonna do 5 rounds for time. We're gonna do some kettlebell swings, goblet squats, and then 60 double unders. Any questions?
What's the double under?
Well, it's a surprise, and I'll show you after we're done the strength workout. Yeah.
Great.
I survived.
Yeah.
God, I'm sweating.
Public speaking and death are like the two things that people are really scared about.
I know. Actually, public speaking is first.
Yeah. Oh, you're not Aaron? All right, Aaron, get up there.
Aaron's not afraid.
So Liz, so read it, right? 10 sets of 3. We're gonna do 10 sets of 3 bench press, and then just even go through. This is gonna be all the minute. This is gonna be 67.5%. Smooth, and I always put like a little thing on there from whatever Mayhem put out, like one little sentence. It's like, go fast, die, or something, whatever it says.
Okay.
And then just say it, because that way you look like you're saying, you know, this is what I want as the person leading this group, right? I want you guys to do your bench press smooth on the way down, fast on the way up. If you're doing it opposite, you're doing something wrong. And then for the numbers, say, hey, we're gonna do 5 rounds for time, 12 kettlebell swings, 12 goblet squats, 60 double unders, because blah, 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 time cap, time domain, whatever. That's what we're looking to do. You guys are the best. Hasta la vista. But yeah, spend those extra 10 seconds saying the numbers, because I say it all the time too. I'm like, we got some kettlebell swings, we got some goblet squats, we got some dubs, blah, blah, blah. But I got out of the habit of I need to read what's on the board.
So read what's on the board.
I think so, yeah. I think
Okay.
that's important. Anybody else?
Yeah. It's there for a reason. It's because if we do get tied up, if we do get a little bit nervous and we're up there just starting out, it's like, it's written there, and I love the little cue that you put up there, like smooth down, fast up, because as you're going through it, you're giving the intention of the workout, so that people in the back, so you've got multiple different athletes looking and listening to you, and they're like, how do I want to approach this? And they're like, and when they hear smooth down, fast up, they're going to remember that cue, because you're going to say it again when they're in bench press. So it's just read what's up there, and it makes it super
And that's
easy.
probably good too.
It makes it super easy.
Even for me, like, I can't read the board if I'm standing where you are.
Okay, yeah.
So that's probably helpful too for people who can't actually read what's up here.
Yeah. And remember, we all suck at this. We're all just trying to get better. You did great. I
And
promise.
another tool that is wonderful here is I don't know if you have the coach's version of SugarWOD yet, but there's videos.
Yeah,
And
there
you
is.
just spend
Yep.
10 minutes, 15 minutes throughout your day, watch the videos. They go through the whiteboard, they go through the intention of the workout. Everything you need to know is there.
Okay.
And I'll say, like, I know that,
Any suggestions you guys have,
yeah,
I will soak them up.
we ask a lot of you guys as coaches, for sure, to spend an extra couple minutes each time. But it's not just gonna make you a better coach, it's probably gonna make you a better public speaker. And I think no matter what it is you do for work, speaking in front of people that are unfamiliar with you, being more comfortable to do that is a pretty good skill to have.
Yeah,
So I think it makes me better talking in front of you.
yeah. I
So-
public speak all the time,
Let's-
but it's on a subject that I'm
Comfortable with it,
familiar with.
passionate
Yeah,
with it.
yeah.
Now you gotta
yeah.
go, so I'm not gonna put you on the spot. But Ken, we will. Go ahead, Ken.
Do I have to seriously?
No, get up there, go ahead.
Alright, you pieces of shit.
Wednesdays with Ken.
Wednesday.
Wednesdays with Brian, shut the fuck up. Alright, look up here for announcements. I'm not going to go over them, but we have shirts that we want you to sign up for. It's already open. Hopefully everyone signed up. If you didn't, stay after class, we're going to have a conversation. Today we're just going to work on the bench press. We're going to do 10 sets, 3 reps every minute on the minute. Your weight should be 67.5%-ish of your 1 rep max. We did that on such and such a date. Check it out in SugarWOD. Hopefully you're marking it. I tell you each time, put it in SugarWOD so you're tracking. If you don't have a 1 rep max, just work up to something heavy, and we'll just figure it out and go from there. We want these very slow on down, controlled, and then fast up. I'll come around and help you keep those elbows tucked. And then after that, we'll break it down. We're gonna go into this nice little 5 round for time. We're gonna hit some kettlebell swings. I want you to come up where the face is reaching the top, not this movement. I want the goblet squats, then down full depth where your hip crease is below your knees, and then 60 double unders. If you don't have double unders, we'll come up with a rep scheme. Maybe we'll knock the reps down. or we'll just do double singles. We'll figure that out as we're going through this. Any questions?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's up?
Who's number 2 on the Eagles?
Slay.
Alright, that's what I thought.
Yeah? You
How
like it?
long should that workout take?
We're gonna put you in the 8 to 10 minutes our target. We'll cap you at 12, so we'll pick the weight that kind of gets you into that zone. I know a lot of us can do the heavy kettlebells, but we want you to keep it moving and do it unbroken, so scale it back, get that heart rate up.
What's the RX weight for kettlebells?
RX is based on your performance.
Should I use the same kettlebell for the
Yes.
swings as the goblet squat?
Yes.
That's a great question. Good job, Ken.
Nice.
Anybody else want to try it out? Steph?
Yeah, make her get up
Come
there.
on, you're the
Come on,
best.
Steph. Come on.
Come on, even on your worst day, you have to be the best.
You're simply the best.
Alright. Steph's being miserable. Anybody else want to do this? It's a silly exercise, but it really does make a difference. Because you hear Ken talked about 400 miles an hour. This is how fast he talked. He did 500 things. He could do this, and he saw his squats. His squats went down, and he did this fast.
I just want to do it.
I saw that. But sometimes it's okay to take your time.
That was really helpful to me.
Good.
Comfort over time.
It's all gonna be how comfortable are you talking in front of people, right? I don't care what you're talking about. All these words can change. This doesn't matter. The way that you coach it doesn't matter. It's going to be the same thing all the time. The movements change, the cues change. If you don't know about cues, this thing's great. What I've been doing before I coach is I'll open it up to 1 or 2 things, and I'll just start reading, and I'll pick 1 or 2 cues. Handstand push-up. All right, here's some scaling options. This is a good way to think about it. We're gonna go into the tripod. So that's my thing for the day. I'm gonna talk about the tripod all day, the whole time. Everything is a tripod, and I try to put that information into their heads. All right? But the overall goal for you at the whiteboard is, again, to recap, plan ahead, make your timelines, know who's coming to class, be ready to distribute your attention in a certain way based on who's coming to class. Structure your warm-up in a way that allows you to see faults and to make corrections in that time instead of spending more time in the back half. And then set up the flow of class so it falls in line with your timeline, and then make it the best hour of their day, giving them the ability to feel like they still accomplished the same things that maybe somebody a little further progressed did as well. So they should all be doing the same thing, finishing around the same time. If you ever have questions about what that looks like, we can always talk about it. One last thing. If you know that you're trying to get someone to do a certain thing, like today's workout, I want you guys to be doing your kettlebell swings, and once you hit the 12th one, you might put it down and then pick it right up from your squat, or you're just gonna flip it around and start squatting, right? All 24 reps are gonna be done without stopping. If I'm looking at that workout, I'm thinking if I have to finish a round, to get at 8 minutes, I have to finish a round in what, like a minute 15, something like that? If I'm looking at that and then I'm looking at somebody in the warm-up doing kettlebell swings, instead of faster, it's gonna take them a longer time. Maybe you just say, hey, let's just do 10 and 10, right? Just bump it down a little bit to fit the time that makes sense. And one thing that helps me think about that is, what weight would I need to do on this to have that same stimulus, to do it unbroken? And most of the time it's like, yeah, I'd have to do 50 pounds or 35 pounds, and it would be no problem. But make sure that they have something that is challenging and it matches the time that we're trying to hit. The time is the stimulus, really. If this workout, 5 rounds per time, is supposed to be done with a 2-minute break, then you're like, I want you to finish that under a minute every time, right? But if it's 5 rounds without a break, and we want to make sure that we're staying in a steady but tough flow, the weights are probably a little bit different. All right, that's pretty much it. Cool, so that's number 1, the whiteboard. If you have questions, we can always talk about it. Cool?
Cool.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
You guys are the best.
Thank you, Steve.